Hey everyone. It's always been interesting that over the history of time, how did we get our name called the United States of America? And I was reading this story here online that somehow our founding father George Washington, who coined the phrase United States of America, mystery might have been interesting answer. Historians a long time pinpoint exactly when the name of the United States was first used and whom by. Now, the news suggested that the man might have been George Washington himself. Of course, the founding fathers also credited too, like Ben Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, Alexander Hamilton, and others. Now, but a letter written by Washington's aide-de-camp on January 6th discovered that the past Memorial Day suggests that Washington might have been the one of the first people of, if not the first person, to utter the words United States of America. Now, Professor William Sapphire and a beloved of Oxford and American researcher estimate concluded in 1998 that Thomas Jefferson was the original person who wrote United States of America in the headlines of his original rough draft of the Declaration of Independence. Now, sometime on or after June 11th, 1776, then the last summer, the Monitor reporter discovered that early citation in an anonymous essay appearing in Virginia Gazette dated April 6, 1776. The latest find comes from the letter that Stephen Malin wrote to Colonel Joseph Reed from the Continental Army headquarters in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Continental Army, sorry. During the siege of Boston, the two men who lived with Washington, Cambridge, with Reed serving Washington's favorite military secretary, Malin fulfilling the role during Reed's absence. Now, the letter touched the Connolly, the 13 colonists desired to enlist Europe's help in their revolution, but most likely procuring the most needed armaments and gunpowder. The shortage of gunpowder was so desperate that at one point orders were issued to use wooden harpoons instead of guns. Now, Malin wrote that he wishes to carry full and amp of power from the United States of America now to Europe to support the revolutionary enterprise. The letter was written at the time when the American sorry about that. The United States, the 13 colonies, the 13 states, increasingly taking on trapping a new independent nation. Now, the historian Kevin Phillips summarized the dispute lack of international legal recognition of the Continental Congress function as de facto war government by the end of 1775. Now, the United States, us, had also created an army June 15th and a navy October 13th and the Marines in November 10th. Now, the Congress appointed Washington as commander-in-chief and dispatched him to Boston. Now, Washington called his men the troops of the United Province of North America. Now, Washington sought to turn those troops into fighting force capable of engaging the most powerful military of age. And at the different time, Reed and Malin worked side by side with him, issuing orders, written letters, and sitting in council. Now, on Christmas Day, 1775, Just 8 days before his USA letter, Magellan inscribed on the flip of a document on the side of the United Colonel, us. I'll just say us. Yet on January the 2nd, he wrote of the full and amp power of the under the word United States of America. Now, these two significant events that occur between Christmas Day, 1775, to January 2nd, 1776, could have shift in the tone. Now, first George III speech to the Parliament was which arrived in hands of the army, the Continental Army, on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. God, I can't talk. And in it, George III commended the rebellion and the United States, calling his American subjects deluded and their leaders traitors. He accused conspiracy of designing the independent empire and lay out his plans to expand British land and naval forces in America and seek out assistance of foreign still to clash with rebellions. Now, for many Americans, this was last straw. Of course, we know we were wanting our independence of freedom from another country at the time. Now, all-out war was now evidence that the second event, also on New Year's Day, was unfolding of what known as the first flag of America. Now, the Grand Union flag, which features 13 characteristic red, white, and stripes, with the British Union Jack in the canteen. Now, the Grand Union flag was raised by Washington on the Boston Prospect Hill on Cemetery to commemorate inauguration of the Continental Army in 1776. Now, the reform of the Army, which Washington had worked tirelessly to build. Its must have been a heavenly occasion, or perhaps the phrase United States of America was sound that day. So what known is Washington, understanding that the practice of virtue of restraint, he was careful and cautious. Now, his critical steps and maneuvers were well known throughout the nation of independence. Were likely discussed frequently among founders that many of these men were actual as much as print. Now, it sounds something you would lose your head over, right? Of course, not Washington. Washington was pretty much a good education person. He had the smarts of doing the right things, and he sees something like today. If he saw something on our map, he can see something in the back door of a road somewhere that nobody knows, no one thought of using. But that's how he got out of most of his tight squeezes during the war. But the length favor with incite his majesty most gracious speech. Now, breathing sentiment of tenderness and compassion for his still American subject, and echoes has not yet come to him, but we know what it must be. Now, Magellan, January 2nd letter, maybe the United States of America was slipped of the pen to speak the idea of a new nation. That until then it could be only whispered, nevertheless, in concrete evidence, the phrase United States of America was written and mostly spoken in a home in Cambridge, converted to a war office drawn American Revolutionary War. Whether Washington, Maryland, or even Reed should be credited is somewhat beside the point. In the matters, all three spoke with one voice. The voice of the commander-in-chief of what would became the United States of America. And you will wonder today, as old as we are from 1776, today, I would think George Washington would say, if he was still here, over the century of times, how we became number one, how Americans achieve their goals through the century of time. From war, from peace, have seen things change from my time. My time would have been horse and buggies. In that century, see future presidents came and gone. See the first warship that made of metal, not a wooden ship. See the first medicine that can cure ill people today. See the first automobile that never thought of ever happening. And be able to see computers and phones that has changed from the 40s, 30s, and radio has changed a lot. So the United States is changing, and our founding fathers and George Washington would thought, wow, how we became a little country and became a big country over so many years and time. And hopefully one day that our children, our great-grandchildren will realize how far we have come from horse and buggy to maybe flying cars one day. I won't be able to see it, maybe. If I lived 200 years old, if they had medicine for people like me, be able to live some 200 years old, seeing something flying, go to the moon, that would be the most exciting thing ever. Have a ticket, be able to go to the moon. And that probably that would be the farthest place I would go. Well, that's about it tonight. And happy 4th of July, America, and Americans all over the world that's serving our country. God bless you all. And please come home safe so your families can see you and your children can see you. Happy 4th of July, everyone. Bye now.